Coming up, it's the 6th anniversary of the Scrum of the Earth. We've got a ton of content planned to celebrate. Today, we're kicking things off with two favorite returning guests to chat Nations Championship, rugby's greatest rivalry, the upcoming URC season, and much more. Welcome back. This is the Scrum of the Earth. Hello, cheers, and welcome to the Scrum of the Earth podcast, the podcast that brings you news, reviews, great interviews, and so much more, all about the world of rugby. As always, I am your host, David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game in all its forms, wherever I can find it all over the globe. For another of my oh-so-modern music references, I'd like to say, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside. That's right. If you're still listening, you may be surprised to realize, as of just a couple of weeks ago, we are into our 6th year. We've literally been here since COVID, and I can't tell you how much fun it's been. To celebrate our 6th anniversary, we've got several special episodes lined up. Today, we're starting off with two of our favorite guests. We've got the diminutive Christian vocalist from the prog rock band, yes, it's John Anderson. John, how does it feel to be the owner of a lonely heart?
I mean, to be fair, that is an absolute banger of a tune, and I will stand by that.
The guitar solo, nuts.
Yeah, that could be a heist tune as well. Just saying. No, that's yeah. It's good to be back. It's good to be back chatting some rugby.
John, you and I shared a few beers on the mean streets of Glasgow not too recently, though they weren't particularly mean streets. And they included the best Indian restaurant that we've been to in like a decade. John, thank you again for hosting the Scrum of the Earth this summer. And, you know, how the heck are you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, it's been a busy summer. Obviously, the start of the summer was, as you said, the Great American Tour of the Scotland, which was tremendous. Great to put a person to the online persona. So that kicked off the summer on great fettle. And yeah, it's been a busy old summer. Lots of music, lots of. I tend to have that thing where I fill my calendar to the absolute brim. So when the rugby season ends, or should end, but let's be honest, it didn't really. I tend to have other things I could go on with, but yeah, it's been a good summer. But I am looking forward to getting back to a little bit of normality. I need my Friday night lights at Scotstoun once again.
Also joining us once again, a man I treasure and a man who could probably pass a security check disguised as Thomas Ramos. It's the lovely Huw Griffin. Huw, have you been making music in your time away from serious rugby?
I'd just like to say that I am significantly taller than Thomas Ramos. By significant, I mean 4 inches, but that's significant.
Significant?
That's according to his All Rugby page. Yes, I've been doing music. I have used the off season, as we are referring to it, as a time to remind myself that there are actually things outside of watching rugby union and talking about rugby union and thinking about rugby union. And a joint passion of all of ours on this podcast is music. And so I've reminded myself that, hey, these guitars that I have in this room all do something. So I should probably pick them up. I was musing to myself earlier, which is the most amount of money sat on a form of shelf, my guitar collection or my rugby jersey collection. I still think my guitar collection, but it's close.
Yeah, gotta be. The guitars, each one is like 5 or 6 jerseys.
Yes, but I have a lot of jerseys.
if you've got 60 to 70 jerseys and 6 guitars, there's going to be a crossover point, isn't there?
I have, and I'm about to say a shocking number, okay? So be aware. I have broken the 100 mark with jerseys this year. Nice. And in terms of guitars, in this room, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one is expensive. So probably that one is probably worth all of the jerseys that are there. But it is close.
What is your favorite jersey out of those 100?
That's a great question. I are currently.
Can I guess? Is it going to be a Welsh one, or is it going to be like a super esoteric?
No. A Welsh rugby jersey would make me think about Welsh rugby. That would be awful. So behind me on my display, I have this Samoa jersey,
Samoa, that's a nice one.
which is
Oh,
beautiful. Just on as an aside, I took delivery of an Australian jersey um, the other day, and I put it on. I was like, I look Australian in this Australian jersey, and I know you'd be like, of course you do, because Australians wear them. So when you put it like, no, because when I put the Samoa jersey on, I don't look Samoan.
No.
But when I put the Australian jersey on, I do look Australian. So
does it manifest a cork hat or something?
it feels like it wants to, but
Oh,
so
it's got the
so
Oh,
probably one that I'll go for now is I have the Le Crunch jersey
oh.
from this 2026. Had to pre-order it, arrived at the end of July. It's very fancy. Adidas are doing a very, very good job at the
really
moment.
nice.
It's
Tell our listeners who aren't watching.
the Le Crunch jersey, so it's the pale blue France jersey that France wore when they beat England in the Six Nations decider this year. It was the 120th anniversary of Le Crunch or something like that.
Every French jersey is a better American jersey than any American jersey has ever been.
Yeah, I can see that. The American top that I'm wearing right now is very nice in honor of you, obviously, David. But of course, if France hadn't won that game, I would have been able to pick up one of these very cheaply on vintage rather than having to pay the full price from Adidas.
I think that's the thing with jerseys,
So
isn't
worth
it?
it.
I've got. I think I'm at 92 at the moment in the cupboard behind me, and I think it's that way, as you rightly say. It's all about the context of the jersey. So I often what I do, particularly with Scotland jerseys, is I associate the jersey with a player. So I've got the Doohan top, I've got the Huw Jones top, I've got various kind of they're associated with particular players. But it's funny because probably my favourite jersey in my collection at the moment is one I can't even wear anymore because it's far too small for me because it's a player fit jersey. So I've got one of the I think it's a 2003 World Cup France Nike jerseys, or it might be the 2004. It's that era, and it is absolute. It's one of the lycra fit. You can see what was the fly half who was particularly mercurial in French. Freddie Michalak. Sorry,
Yes.
his name escaped my being at this point. Freddie Michalak. You can see Freddie tootling about in this fabulous skin tight with the kind of round neck. It's just a piece of fabulous fashion.
I think in previous chats with both of you, I've at some point worn my most esoteric jersey, which is the Hong Kong Fat Boy Tens. And
nice.
On the front, it's like Admiral Akbar, and on the back, it's a cascading sort of Andy Warhol-esque, like cascading Darth Vader helmets. And I've always just stared at it and just kind of gone, what the? And then I went to the Sevens in, quote, New York, and a guy sat down behind me and goes, "Hey, is that the Hong Kong Fat Boy Tens?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I played for the Hong Kong Fat Boy Tens." I was like, my God, that was an experience.
Wow. I suppose that's one of those things like, what are the odds? But if you go to the sevens, I guess those odds shrink significantly, don't they? I suppose.
Yeah.
Speaking of Andy Warhol jerseys, I am slowly, it's a bit paused at the moment, but I'm slowly building my collection of Stade Francais jerseys. Um,
Oh.
and I do have a couple of really nice ones. I got a player fit one that I don't think the person selling it knew was a player fit because it was way too cheap. And I was kind of like, oh, I've got to get that. And I got it, and I was like, I think this is a really
Player fit
fancy
ones
jersey.
are like a punishment unless we look like you, I guess.
You'd be surprised. They are designed for a very specific body type, I think. But I got a Stade Francais jersey that's like a tie-dyed pattern. So it's like all
Oh yeah.
purple and green smudges and stuff. And when I first got it, I was like, this is a laugh. And then as I wore it for a week, it gradually started taking over my personality. And I started wearing like round sunglasses and stuff. And I was like, this jersey is changing me.
You know what I like? The Bristol European jersey with the hot air balloons. I like that one.
Yeah. Yep, that's a good one. Yeah, the problem you've got, unfortunately, I would have my personality. It would be very on brand for me prior to this season to have a collection of Stade Francais tops. That would be very on brand for me. However, Stade Francais are now dead to me and can frankly get in the sea forevermore with their
See what you did there.
recruitment.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. The fans are very
No more
upset
drink.
about that, if it helps.
It does
more
help.
drink boxes.
It helps a lot. But that Cretin is still employed, so that's a problem.
So I think by now you're both used to these very odd introductions. I've always loved the fact that you both immediately and intuitively sort of understood my weird special brand of sarcasm. Thank you both for joining me here again. I can't wait to kick off our 6th season of the Scrum of the Earth. Either of you have any highlights from previous appearances that you can recall? We've had a lot of chats over the years.
It's been a few. It's been a few chats. The ones I can remember.
For what it's worth, I remember Huw teaching me the definition of the word stodge because I didn't know what the word stodge meant. And the first time we chatted, he said it was around Christmas time, and he said, "Oh, I'm full of stodge."
One of my personal highlights from this podcast has been, I think it was a review from or might have been just prior to me coming on the podcast, and you'd had a request for the guy who laughs a lot, or the guy who's so happy to come on the podcast, and you got the Scottish guy who laughs to come on. And I was like, that's such
true.
a nice description.
Well, Cammy, who was still in charge of your pod at the time, I was aiming for him, and he deflected me to Johnny. And Johnny was not in a laughing mood that first day, so it was refreshing to switch from Johnny to John.
Yeah, we definitely have different personalities when it comes to.
To be fair, Johnny's personality on the pod has changed a lot over the years since then.
Yeah,
he was a lot drier back then.
He's a good lad.
Huw, yourself?
Yeah, I'm unfortunately my self-inflicted curse of going on so many rugby podcasts that I can't tell one from the other is a detriment to my memory. The one thing that always I think kind of defines you in my mind is when I listen to one of your many excellent podcasts with Alice Sofa, who has finally followed me back on Instagram.
Hey!
And you got into debating Farah Palmer Cup blindside flankers with her, and you were like, well, I like her from this team, and I was like, who is this guy? Who the heck knows about blindside flankers in the Farah Palmer Cup? Like there are people in these towns in New Zealand who don't know who these people are, but here's David having an in-depth, lengthy debate with Alice Sofa about who the third best one is at this particular team. And I'm like, what am I listening to here? There is nothing like this in the world.
It's been the most amazing thing about doing this is that I have simply discovered if people love rugby, they also probably love talking about rugby, and you can get anyone to talk. My biggest miss, I had Murray Kinsella lined up, but I screwed up the time difference. And then when I missed the time, I got a message after the fact, like, where are you? And I felt like an idiot. And unfortunately, I think I too casually was like, oh, we'll just reschedule to this. And he was like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. And I was like, okay, you're Murray Kinsella. That's fine. So on the other hand, Bernard Jackman, Philip Tuttiett, like the list goes on. It's incredible.
Oh, I need to interview Philip Tuttiett, but that again would probably involve talking about Wales, and I don't want to do that. Yeah, I've interviewed Bernard Jackman, and I don't want to encourage people to get in touch with him, but when I got in touch with him to ask, he was like, yeah, set it up. We're going to do it tomorrow morning. Fine. And I was like, wow, okay, you're way too important to be this generous.
I like the fact that when Bernard Jackman says, look it, you look it. You know, when he says, okay, look it, you're like, yes, sir. What am I going to do? What am I looking? Well, it's been a lovely summer. My Eagles had some good performances over the last couple of months, both men and women. The Currie Cup has had some fun moments. Yeah. For the first time in at least 2.5 years, pretty sure. Curry Cup's had some fun moments. The NPC is just now getting fully into gear. I love the NPC. And of course, we've had the opening salvo of the Nations Championship, a tournament I feel sure you both loathe, but we'll get to that. Most recently, though, we've had the, the so-called Greatest Rivalry Tour with New Zealand traipsing across the Rainbow Nation. John, I'll start with you. We've been chatting / complaining in our various group chats about the Nations Championship, but in the end, I admit I love it. I feel like all my European friends roll their eyes at the tournaments and sort of quasi tests that I get super into. But this is a tournament featuring 6 Northern Hemisphere teams and 6 Southern Hemisphere teams that are all highly rated. If these tests were just billed as standalone summer tests, as we're kind of used to, they would have been compelling matches. Why is this tournament illegitimate in your eyes? Like, were you able to enjoy any of the action despite your sort of dislike of the format?
If I may just jump in with a point of pedantry, there are 7 Northern Hemisphere teams in the Nations Championship. It's just Japan have relocated strategically for the purposes of rugby.
Strategic realignment. There's probably a caveat in the rugby laws to allow this to happen.
I can't wait till Lee isolates this segment as the pedantry segment that we can put on the little shorts.
Right, you asked the question. So I think it's great from a Scotland perspective. Just as a starting point, I think it's great to have more guaranteed games against the bigger teams, because we've struggled because we've been crap for so many years prior to being not as crap. We struggled to get games against the big teams, and unfortunately, it's how you get a bit of kudos. It's how you learn. You always want to play against the best. So the fact we've been kind of prevented from doing that
last summer was a throwaway.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not. We try to butter it up, or certainly some of us try to butter it up as being like, well, it's a long season. The guys have had a lot of rugby, so it's great. We've got a development tour, but development tours are great until you then get to the next 6 Nations or the next big tournament, and Townsend doesn't pick any of those players, which it has happened on quite a few occasions. That's besides the point. It's great to see that. I like the structure. I just don't like the way it's being rammed down my face that this is a rivalry, because I have real issues in rugby with, and we'll come on to the greatest rivalry in a second, which is, you can imagine where I'm going to land on this conversation, but I find it very, very offensive to me that people are trying to market to me within rugby and ramming this down my throat that there's this big rivalry between Northern and Southern Hemisphere, well, Northern +1 and Southern Hemisphere, and there's this competition. And they're even going as far as they're putting up, obviously, the points for each of the matches, obviously the points won, but then they're even going as far as putting like the North and South and then doing the points for, points against. And it's like, well, come on, guy, that's going to be literally the opposite of each other. It's going to balance out. Are you joking me? Like, come on, guys. Ludicrous. So I think they don't know necessarily what they're doing with it. I think it's a pathetic money grab from the governing body to again try and legitimize what was always summer tests. And the concern is it's the small nations yet again that are going to pay the price for this. They're not going to get access to New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, England, Scotland, France. They're not going to get those one-off games that mean so much to these countries. I remember when Scotland went over to Fiji and played in Fiji, and and I was watching it on possibly the dodgiest camera work I've ever seen in a fixture. But I was up at the crack of dawn to watch this match, and seeing Tim Visser make his debut for Scotland in Fiji. You're not going to get these moments with this structure, and there's no plan in place for how they're going to manage that and how they're going to, is there going to be promotion and relegation from the Nations Championship? Or, where did Georgia feature in this?
So funny that you mentioned that. I've got that coming up. Huw, same question. Is this tournament fake? What are they doing wrong or right? Like, what's your take on the Nations Championship?
The North-South rivalry is something that exists in the head of Southern Hemisphere fans that doesn't exist in the head of the Northern Hemisphere fans. And it's funny if you
just quickly, devil's advocate, is that because the Northern Hemisphere are absolutely not going to win this competition?
No, and I'll explain.
Okay.
That's fair. Is a fair and reasonable thing to say. However, it's one of these things where if you read like any opinion piece on Super Rugby written by either the New Zealand Herald or Australia, or whatever it is, there's always a line or a sub paragraph in there that says something along the lines of, and those Northern Hemisphere buggers would do well to watch a bit of what we do down here. We're showing them. Couldn't give a toss.
I agree with that.
The rugby fans up in the UK, yeah, okay, right. There's a lot of rugby nerds who watch Super Rugby because it's on at a great time of day, like 8 o'clock in the morning on Fridays and Saturdays. Stick it on, why not? It's fantastic. But nobody really cares, and it's the whole kind of the rivalry of it. Like I can't remember if it was like an NPC or something. Like someone kicked a drop goal for a New Zealand team, whether it was NPC or Super Rugby, and the team like tweeted it with the caption, "Hey, Northern Hemisphere, are you watching?" And we were like, "No, we're not." It's nice to know you're thinking about us, though. And this is the point that I always make whenever I'm on one of my, whenever I'm on a podcast with some of my wonderful South African friends, is that up here in Europe, we hate each other way more than we will ever hate you. Like when England are playing against South Africa, who do you think the Welsh, the Irish, and the Scottish want to win? They want South Africa to win. Like it is no exaggeration to say that for the vast majority of the last 1,000 years, the nations that make up the Six Nations have been at war with each other, actively trying to kill each other. Like the beef between these nations is not just like, hey, do you remember the 1995 World Cup final? Like it's so much beyond that. Like it's like these atrocities that occurred hundreds of years ago. This rugby match that we're playing is about that. Like it is. Like no one says it, but it is. And that's why it's like, yeah, when you're playing against England, we'd like you to win, please. Or when you're playing against Ireland, we're quite happy for you to win. That would be fine. But when we're playing against each other, that's why. And that's why the Six Nations is always going to be the greatest tournament in the world.
It occurs to me
that you never go for a 0-0, Huw. Do you never just like wish on a 0-0? Like South Africa, England, I quite often go, well, Ireland, England, actually, I'm at that stage as well, where I'm like, could we just have a 0-0? No one wins, and maybe everyone gets injured. Is that a possibility? Could we make that happen? I don't know.
No, I never hope that England achieve anything even plausibly spinnable as positive.
Right, okay. Fair. I love that. I love that mentality. Lean into that more. I'm a big fan of that.
So is it possible that the battle for dominance is not really about whose rugby teams are better? It's about who can pretend they don't care about it more.
I don't know, man, because as
you're saying, people in the UK don't care about Super Rugby. Believe me, the people who love Super Rugby don't even follow the Six Nations.
Yeah, that's fine, and that's okay. But the point that I'm making is that it's as to John's point, is that it's a rivalry that for a lot of the people in the rivalry doesn't exist. But it's what was the question?
Who knows? Italy and Fiji have failed to win any of their matches in the Nation Championship so far. I'm honestly happy to say Wales got a nice win. Huw, did that victory do anything for you, or were you too busy sort of sticking your fingers in your ears and saying it doesn't count?
No, it did not do anything for me, especially because Fiji are my second favorite team. So every time Wales beat Fiji, I'm a little bit sad. But it was cool to win, and I kind of was like, oh, okay, I could see this progress happening here. And then we played in Argentina, and I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. A lot of people got really upset by the Argentina loss. I was like, it's not that bad. It could have been worse. And then then the South Africa game happened, and worse occurred. But I was really disappointed by Fiji. I had media access for Fiji versus England in Liverpool. And I was in the press conference with the new interim Fiji head coach, Sarah Vakula. I wasn't impressed with him, to be honest. And he kept insisting that Fiji scrummaged well. They didn't. And um, he was kind of like, oh, we got a red card and you're playing against England. These things can happen. I was like, mate, 3 years ago you beat England in England. And you've copped 70. What's going on? He was like, it's not so bad.
And it's not like England have progressed either. That's the thing. Like you could sometimes make the argument, right? Fiji's like, if you were talking about natural levels, Fiji probably, because of the organisational structure that they failed to put in place and the turnover of players and struggling to maybe get their best players out, you can maybe make an argument, right? Fiji naturally are below England in the pecking order if England get their stuff together, which under Borthwick, let's be honest, they're not going to. It's hilarious. I'm a big fan. But the fact is that England haven't progressed. They've not moved forward. They're still as poor a side as they were a couple of years ago, but Fiji have regressed even further, and that's such a concern.
Well, John, we've had some really exciting matches for me so far. New Zealand 34, France 32. That was how I started the morning in the hotel in Glasgow.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
It was amazing. I started the day with a test in the morning at the hotel and ended it with Scotland versus Argentina in an actual pub. Australia almost pipping Ireland, and maybe they should have. The 85-point shootout between Argentina and Scotland, that was incredible. Like I said, I got to see it on a big screen, like where somebody actually put it on there without me forcing them to do it. What about you guys? Huw, any of these fixtures kind of stand out for you?
Yeah, New Zealand France was a good one. I remember remarking at the time about the Scotland Argentina one, like all of Scotland's most famous games are all kind of like that, whether it would be that game, whether it be the 50 points to 40 against France or whether it be the 38 all against England. It's like you remember it for the incredible tries that it scored, but obviously like Scott might as well just not practice defense. I remember in that Six Nations Netflix thing. Like in the first series, they had Steve Tandy, who's now Wales head coach, who was doing a team talk, and he was going, thing about defense, lads, is that it's not just forwards who defend, the backs have to defend as well. There's an actual line from the documentary, and I was like, I think I could be an international head coach if this is if that's all that you have to know. Like, I think I knew that.
If you don't score more points than the other team, you're not going to win the game.
Scotland have basically been outed as the most Super Rugby Six Nations team out there. The defense is optional at best.
So, in terms of games that stood out, yeah, that was one. Other than that, the games, because if I may slightly twist the question into being another complaint, cramming all the games onto Saturday, sod that. That's rubbish.
Yeah.
Don't do that. I was bad enough with the Women's Six Nations that they did that, which meant that if you actually went to a game, you definitely missed all of the other games. But why? Why? Because it's not like you can't tell me that's what the broadcasters want, because the streams clash. Like it's so chock full that it kind of like the game finishes. You watch the captain's post-match interview and you think, right, I'll go for a walk, I'll make a sandwich and something, and then I watch the day. Oh no, the anthems have died. Like it was too much. So I know people whinge about Friday night games and Sunday afternoon games. When you've got that many rugby matches, play some on some other days.
And you've got a wiggle room, haven't you? Because you've got obviously games taking place at different parts of Europe, so you do have a couple of hours potentially to work with, where you could have an Italy game on a couple of hours afterwards in the middle of the summer. you could move stuff about. France can be an hour ahead, so it actually can move stuff about to kind of try and mitigate that a wee bit, or as you say, use the Friday nights and Sunday afternoons a bit more. I think for me, the issue with the fixtures list, and obviously it's because of the two parts of the tournament where you kind of have to play everyone. I felt that after week one, the fixture list was so predictable. You were kind of walking through the fixtures and you're going, that's a South Africa victory, that's a England victory. There was I didn't think there was much jeopardy at all in the fixture list, which in turn meant I was less inclined to actually bother watching. So
that's a great point.
The Nations Cup that USA were playing in, that was great.
That
was fantastic.
It was good.
Obviously, USA did very, very well, which is great for the sport, and also just some absolutely mad games. And what kind of to John's point with the Nations Cup, what we saw was roughly the same number of points being scored as in the Nations Championship, but the margins were much closer. So you were seeing high-scoring games, but you were also seeing close games, which is great to see, and all these very, very different styles of rugby, European rugby versus South American rugby and stuff. So that I really enjoyed talking about that a lot, and it was refreshing as well because kind of John mentioned about in the past that maybe Scotland haven't always gotten these fixtures. For whatever reason, Wales have never really had a problem of like every single November playing New Zealand, South Africa, and Australia every single November.
Always had them.
So for me, it was kind of like it wasn't fresh. It wasn't a new thing to me. So the Nations Cup, on the other hand, was very, very new, and I found it very exciting.
John, England have won 2 out of 3. But they have the highest points differential in the Northern Hemisphere. Mm-hmm. Are we worried that, or I should say, and they have the highest points differential? Are we worried that England are again on the ascendancy? Like, I feel like they've been spinning their wheels under Borthwick, but I'm unnerved by some things I'm seeing from them. I feel like they're just kind of passing Ireland on the uptick. I think those arrows are crossing each other's right now. Like, John, if you were an England men's rugby fan, how would you be feeling right now?
You almost called me an Edinburgh fan there, and I will take.
I almost did.
I will pick you up in that and moan heartily about such blasphemy. If I was an England fan, I would continue to be concerned. The reason England have the highest points differential is again based on the fixture list, right? England are not a good team. They are not a team with a plan. Borthwick is coming off the back of the worst Six Nations they've had in some time.
Yeah.
And the problem you've got with England is they have all the raw materials to be top 2 in the world, right? They've got everything they need except a plan. And if they had a competent coach, which they seem to fail to pick and have done for so long now, they could be one of the best sides in the world. What England lack at the moment, they get caught up in the star players. They are the Netflix team of World Rugby at the moment. They get caught up in the Marcus Smith hype. They get caught up in I think Pollock has potential to be a really, really good player. Is he anywhere near the hype that the English media have for him just now? Absolutely not. He's a bang average back rower at best at the moment, right? So there's aspects of that England side. They are picking partnerships that are not going to work. They're picking second-rate players, particularly in their backs, which actually doesn't matter because they don't have a plan to get the ball to them. So they're kind of in that situation where they're not an attack-minded side. They basically, their game plan is still rooted in essentially England 2006, which is not going to be a successful game plan in modern rugby. Modern rugby, look at them, similar to what you guys have both been saying about, look at the points being scored in games now. People are scoring more points. People are more willing to push. How many penalties do people turn down and kick to the corner and go for the try? People are more willing to take that risk now. And England seem to have just forgotten that that's actually happened and are still like, oh, cool, yeah, George Ford hit a drop goal, sweet. So England are a basket case under Borthwick, and the concern is they have the potential there, they have the ability, but they do not have the leadership. And I would love it if they just hand them a 5-year extension and just be done with it. That'd be great.
Some good young players too. Huw, same question. Are England sort of figuring it out right now, or are they stuck in a coaching quagmire?
Steve Borthwick has no idea what he's doing with selection. And kind of the people, because there are people who insist that Steve Borthwick is progressing as planned on a master plan to winning the World Cup in 2027, which, by the way, they have somehow fluked, as long as you're not wearing a tinfoil hat, an incredibly favourable draw in 2027. But it's England, so they could get up at any moment.
Oh, you always get that. Their last draw was a bloody disgrace as well.
So Borthwick has no idea what he's doing with selection. And what we see with Borthwick is that he sticks with this team until that team loses, and then he panics and he changes selection and he keeps changing it until they win again and go, oh, and then he sticks with that again until, like, the whole thing with, even if I just look at the coaching ticket of bringing Lee Blackett in, when Borthwick first came in, he brought in basically the Leicester coaching ticket that he had at Leicester with Richard Wigglesworth. Richard Wigglesworth got taken on the Lions tour, but it happened. And so he brought in Lee Blackett as a stand-in. And Lee Blackett came in and Borthwick went, hey, this guy who's been a professional coach for ages and ages, not just my mate from Leicester, he's really good. So Richard Wigglesworth came back and said, hey, Richard, you're not doing this job anymore. I've got this guy to do it. And he moved in. It's just symptomatic of not having a plan, not having any conviction. And the selection on the pitch as well. You know, I'm sure he's a lovely bloke. But Seb Atkinson, I'm sure there are even some Gloucester fans who've never heard of him. Like, like who is he? Is he good? No idea. Like Tommy Freeman at 13. What? Like Tommy Freeman might be top 5 wingers. Is top 5 wingers? Might be top 3 wingers in the world. Spain at 13. You know that kind. Marcus Smith at fullback. David, I hate England. I hope England lose every game that they ever play for the rest of the time. I cannot stand the Marcus Smith at fullback selection. Even as someone who wants England to lose, and picking Marcus Smith at fullback directly leads to England losing more. I'm like, stop doing this. This is the worst selection in the whole history of rugby union. Like he cannot play that position. It doesn't work.
Like, he fails under the high ball every time, and that's the only thing you need. What is the thinking? Is Steve Borthwick, did he set something in stone in his head before he took the job and he's just sticking to it? Like, it's weird, right?
Rassie Erasmus summed up Steve Borthwick perfectly in 3 words. What all of us England haters have been trying to do for years, Rassie Erasmus did it in 3 words. He said, he chases trends. And it's so true. It's so true. So Steve Borthwick is looking at every other top rugby team in the world right now and going, who has everybody else got at fullback? They've got a playmaker. They've got a fly half. And he said, well, we don't. The only player that we have who is like that is George Furbank, and he's constantly he's perma-injured. So we've got this incredibly talented guy in Marcus Smith, although we've all decided that he's nowhere near the fly half jersey. I think I'm closer to playing fly half than England Marcus Smith is. And so it's like, oh, well, we'll just get him in this role. But it's a terrible idea and it doesn't work at all. But a penny for Freddie Stewart's thoughts. Like, if you're less good than Marcus Smith at fullback, then you must be pretty not good.
I remember being so concerned about watching Freddie Stewart in the 15 jersey for England, and his high ball work, and he's such a big physical presence. I mean, he's a confidence player, as a lot of these England players seem to be. But I remember watching him and being genuinely concerned that England had a world-class talent on their hands. And the same year, Tommy Freeman out in the wing. And then, yeah, as you say, Marcus Smith, which my lovely partner simply refers to him as speed bump, because his defensive work is akin to just getting in the road. You know, it's, positional madness. Freeman at 13, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that has been one of my rage-inducing, like, hilarity moments where I'm just like in Scotland, we love to pick a player out of position just to get them in the team. We're big fans of that, right? But that is absolute crazy play from England, and I am all in for it.
It's really funny
quickly
because
on Marcus Smith. Next time you watch Marcus Smith play fullback, you have to watch. You will definitely do this. You have to watch him pick a position, like you said, John, positionally clueless.
Yeah.
He picks a position and he shows them the outside, and he waits for them to run past him, and then he goes after them like that. And he goes like after him, and his hair's going all over the place. And he goes, and then once he's like pretended to run after them for a little bit, and he knows he can't catch them, he goes, no. He got away from me again, and just goes, no.
When he does,
you guys.
When he does get an unchallenged long ball as well, he finally catches a high ball that he's not been challenged. He does the classic Marcus thing of, all good fullbacks receive the ball, scan. You scan the gaps, right? Where's my forwards? Where am I looking? Where am I going? And he does his wee stupid little hitch kick thing, but nowhere near anyone. And he's actually not fooling anyone. And there's just some absolute brutal big forward just looking, going, okay, I'm going to end you now. It's great. It's so entertaining.
It's funny. So from where I sit, like, nobody knows about Marcus Smith. I remember watching the Six Nations documentary, and he's meeting with the people from Rock Nation and stuff. And they're like, "Oh, you're going to be a huge star in America." And I was thinking, wow, they are hoodwinking this motherfucker so badly. This poor guy, because he was just eating it up. He was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be a huge star in America." And like, but on the other hand, as somebody who is in a rugby-starved nation, I noticed Marcus Smith pretty early on and was like, I really like this guy. I like him at 10. I like his ability. I like his attitude. They obviously shouldn't have met at fullback, but I've always liked the guy, and it kills me that they keep seeming to misuse him. But I mean, I don't want to be accused of saying anything good about England.
Yeah, Finn Smith is just better at fly half than him. But just quickly, I just wanted to let you know, David, that TNT Sports recently referred to Lewis Rees-Zammit as former NFL wide receiver Lewis Rees-Zammit will play for Wales.
That's what I've called him. I've called him former Jacksonville Jaguar, Lewis Rees-Zammit.
Just think, he could be running the wide receiver lines for Trevor Lawrence right now. He could be on the receiving end of what could be the most boom and bust offense of the NFL this year. It's going to be terrific.
It's going to be funny. Well, my friends, if you're even marginally enjoying what you're watching or listening to, do us all a favor and like and subscribe, particularly on YouTube, where the Global Gainline Network is now over 1,700 subscribers. I'm really proud of that. And if you love rugby, it's pretty much your go-to spot. The Global Gainline Network will be getting very busy in the next coming weeks with the return of the URC and so much more. Here at the Scrum of the Earth, we've got a URC full preview coming to your way next week. And if I play my cards right, a women's rugby rundown with Rachel Law, the brilliant Rachel Law. I can't wait. If you're the person who wants to say something snarky in our comments, I'm sure Lee will be absolutely delighted. Please and thank you. Okay, tomorrow, where I am, it's the first of 3 tests between the Springboks and the All Blacks. I don't think either of you have been following the club fixtures, but will you be watching the actual test series? Like, Huw, will this game make it to your TV tomorrow?
If I've got time, I'll stick it on. It's on Sky, so I, for legal reasons, cannot watch it. But yeah, if I get time, because I've got it. I'm out and about tomorrow, so I might not get a chance. Yeah, it's the big deal. If you're not talking about it on YouTube at the moment, you might as well not be on YouTube. It is really taken over everything.
John, what about you?
I've followed the club fixtures. I've actually watched them all. Which yeah,
you and me. That makes 2.
It was quite surprising to me because we had got back from a trip and I had actually completely forgotten that New Zealand and South Africa were trying to do British and Irish Lions version 2. So we got back and I was like, what? New Zealand playing the Stormers? what's going on here? And it was on our watch list. And yeah, we popped it on. So I have watched all the club fixtures. What a pointless waste of time. Like, what a waste of time, energy. Literally, the highlight has been a middle-aged man doing a haka back at a haka.
That was really, really good, though.
It was class, but he's still a
really liked that.
middle-aged man who was playing when New Zealand were good. So, you know, it's a bit crap, really. And I'm sure the test will be good, and I'm sure South Africa will bring out their you know, I've seen the teams for the weekend. I'm sure it's going to be great fun. But South Africa will smash New Zealand. What I have noticed, though, is I do like the cut of Dave Rennie's jib in terms of what he's trying to get New Zealand to do.
Okay.
I always thought this was going to be the case. At Australia, he took over another, we've spoken about England's basket case. Australia, another extreme basket case rugby nation, sorry. Dave Rennie has always had the potential to create a really, really exciting rugby nation. He done really well at Glasgow. I know his last season, he isolated quite a few players. He's not the best man manager, let's say. But if you're only putting up with him for a couple of months a year, you're probably going to quite like him because he will get you playing some exciting stuff. And I think New Zealand are going to be a massive threat come the next World Cup. Because Rennie's going to have them playing some really good stuff. I think this series is too early, though. I think South Africa will wipe the floor with them.
The Kiwis did mop up their club competition, scoring 142 points to 40 over 3 matches, including a shutout of the Sharks. I'm just curious, the losing players probably gain more experience points than the New Zealand players, right? Like, is that the reason for this tour? Like, why are these games actually getting pretty good attendance?
Are they getting good attendance? I thought the stadiums had looked a little bit
The
empty.
giant stadiums, it's always hard to tell, but
It is hard
for
to,
a
you are
URC game,
right.
it looks pretty good.
It is hard to tell, and I'm kind of John mentioned to it. I am kind of benchmarking this in my head against the Lions tour, and I've been asking myself that question a lot of what would it be, how does this compare to a Lions tour? And when we saw the Lions go down in 2021 against the franchises, we saw like 70 pointers regularly. There were no competitive games. Now you would hope that the combined best players of 4 nations would be better than the combined best players of 1. And it seems a little bit close, unfortunately. So the reason it's happening is money. So this is a broader kind of point about the whole of rugby union at the moment. Is we talk about growing the game, and that was kind of the buzzword around 2023. But what we've actually seen since 2023 is rugby look to consolidate and really focus on its centers of income, which is the big matches between men's tier 1 nations. So we've basically seen a focus on that, with the Nations Championship being an example of that, and now also with this greatest rivalry. So I should imagine that South Africa and New Zealand both looked at Rugby Australia, who completely wrote off all of their debt based on the back of a Lions tour, now have record cash reserves based off the Lions tour. And Rugby Australia knew that was going to be the case before the tour ever happened. So they posted a massive loss for the year before, and the CEO was asked about it. It was like, it's okay, we've got the Lions coming next year. It literally doesn't matter. So the New Zealand and South Africa were probably both thinking, okay, how do we not have to wait 12 years for a Lions tour? Okay, well, why don't we just play each other then? And that it also probably tells us a story about the reascension of South Africa, because it's easy to forget 10 years ago, pre 2019, South Africa were just one of the pack. They were just in the mix with the likes of Ireland, England, Wales at the time, kind of level of teams, and New Zealand was miles above everybody. So the fact that this is now a viable thing shows that South Africa have risen, back up to being at that level. So it's kind of it's a microcosm of the wider, lots of other things that are happening in rugby union being manifested in this greatest rivalry tour. And I don't think, I think the fact that it's playing 4 games and one of those games is in the USA is probably another manifestation of one of these trends that are coming in. So I think
It's gonna be a weird one.
I think it's a symptom, is how I would describe the greatest rivalry tool.
John, as I was writing my notes, I realized that if the All Blacks, if they wanted to come and romp through the MLR before playing like a 3-test series against the Eagles, you can bet your ass I'd be there to see if my Free Jacks might be able to score a try against them. Like, is that the draw? Is that why people are showing up for the Stormers game versus the All Blacks?
I think there's still this nostalgia that comes with. So I think because rugby union is still this, professionalism wasn't that long ago. It was long enough ago that we, as fairly younger people, are all like, okay, cool, it's existed in our lifetime, we're cool with it. People are still drawn to that idea of the club side that can put away the international team, the All Blacks, going, Huw, no doubt have been raised on the tails of the All Blacks going to a Welsh club and getting beaten. These things are legend in the sport. So we still continue, because when we think about it, rugby union is such a nostalgia-driven sport. Like, we've talked throughout this podcast about ancient rivalries, about creating situations where things that have happened in the past could happen again. That's basically all the governing body are trying to do. And this whole tour, and the idea of even the Lions doing it as well, and going to club, continuing to go to club sides, they pass it off as warm-up games. But they're not warm-up games. They're opportunities for people to make themselves a legend within their region or their club. And there's no benefit for the touring side, actually, other than they get a wee bit of game time. Now, this is where the kind of debate, I think this time out, it's been really interesting, because you've seen a few Springboks coming into the club teams, and you see a wee bit more of it. Lions tours, you definitely see less of the touring, kind of the hosting nation putting their players to be available for the club sides. You see less of that. So I think there's a debate here about how rugby moves forward with these tours. I personally would love to see Lions tours in particular be more like, you go and tour a nation in the Southern Hemisphere, but actually, do you know what? There's summer tests taking place at that point as well. So let's play a game against Japan. Let's play in Argentina. Let's play a France. Play other teams within the sphere of it, as opposed to playing club sides where the uncertainty of outcome is never there.
The Boks look much better to me than almost anyone. If the Kiwis win 1 out of these 3 tests, that's probably a good result for them.
Yeah, I would say so. I think 1 out of 3 is probably what most are expecting. It would still feel like a shock if it was 4-0 to South Africa. It would still feel, because even with, and John's alluded it to before earlier about where the balance of power lies, it still feels like a shock every time New Zealand lose.
Yeah.
And I think at some point, because, rugby's such an emotional game, and it's funny, I've had the privilege of being able to speak to coaches and things, and you would expect when you speak to a professional coach, they talk about shapes and strategies and stats and things. You'd be shocked how often they talk about emotion, about how that is the driver for everything. And at some point across the 4-test series, the emotion, however you want to define it, will be higher for New Zealand than for South Africa. I remember in the 2017 Lions tour, in going into the second test, I was like, the Lions won't lose this, because they can't, because they have to win it to stay in it. I was like, I just can't see the Lions losing this, because it's a bigger deal for the Lions to lose it than it is for New Zealand to win it, if that makes sense. You know what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
At some point across the 4 games, especially because there's 4 games, New Zealand will hit a peak that South Africa can't go to. We saw it in the last Lions series, in game 3, the tour was won. It was the first that the Lions had gotten the tour victory sewn up after 2 matches for the first time in however many years, and the players were just like, it's job done. And so and it bucketed down with rain and stuff, and there was a few changes to selection. So something like that will happen. If South Africa win the first 2 games, for instance, then in one of the next 2 games, they will be in an emotional lull and New Zealand will catch them. Or Rassie will make a load of selection changes and New Zealand will catch them. I actually do think that New Zealand have a chance of winning this first test, just catching the Springboks a bit cold. I'm not saying that that's what I think will happen. I'm saying there's a chance. But yeah, it is, like I said, it still feels like a shock whenever the All Blacks lose. But you would say that the Springboks are heavy favourites. They're the best team in the world playing at home, so they should beat anybody really.
John, New Zealand haven't really impressed me this summer, despite the final scoreline so far. They do this thing where they come out absolutely firing, like they're flashy and they're making pinpoint passes, and the kick passes are on point. But then all of a sudden you look up and it's a half hour's gone by and the score is 0-0. Like, do they have any chance against the Springboks this summer?
Well, okay, short answer, no. Long answer, right. So I think New Zealand we've seen the best and worst of New Zealand in the last few fixtures. In the gameplay that Dave Rennie's getting, the game plan that Dave Rennie's trying to put in place, you can see is way more expansive than, which is quite surprising because Scott Robertson, generally is quite an expansive coach. So the fact that Rennie's come in and it seems to be Scott Robertson max in terms of like players are being given the ability to offload out of contact. You notice it's so much more in New Zealand currently than what we've seen for the last 18 months. They're not dying with the ball. The ability to cross kick, the ability to play out of contact. There's so many more risks being taken by New Zealand, which is great, because that's actually at the heart of, you think about the best New Zealand rugby teams. You had controlling influences, like you had your Dan Carter just controlling things at 10. But people forget that Dan Carter was quite a exciting 10 in terms of he would try things, he would run, he would explore the gaps and try to find that weak shoulder. The best New Zealand teams have always done that. So I think Rennie's going back to probably what New Zealand rugby's been built on. I don't think they have the personnel for it necessarily at the moment, but that doesn't mean that doesn't change in time. And I think he, as a Super Rugby coach, having had influence in Super Rugby before, and understanding probably actually from his time in Scotland, the influence of the national selection on club teams, and how that all works, is probably a bit more politically savvy for how to approach this than maybe Robertson was. So I think you'll probably see that Super Rugby teams, the New Zealand franchises, will probably start to play, all of them will be playing more in a Rennie fashion and with a view to build up the national team. I think it's going to be more about Team New Zealand than ever before. And that's going to only be to the benefit of rugby union when you're looking at that kind of South Africa rivalry. I think South Africa are too good for them at the moment. They'll dominate them in the set piece. But what has been interesting is New Zealand's scrum has looked quite good, admittedly, in limited club contests, right?
Right. Sure. And the South African clubs haven't sent out their A teams either. Like the Sharks didn't send out. There's no Eben Smith.
The Bulls should have had a good enough scrum. Really, it's a bit of a surprise. The Bulls team that they put out, when I saw that team sheet, and I was like, how have the Bulls not won a URC yet? Like that was a very, very strong team. But
all in for that. Big fan of that. Keep that coming.
Something that John said made me kind of think of it is whenever after a Lions tour, we always talk about a Lions hangover that the players always talk about a Lions hangover. I mean,
just ask Hamish Watson.
Just ask Leo Cullen at Leinster, who was blaming the Lions tour for rugby match defeats that were happening 10 months later. It's like, oh, they're targeting the Lions. Like Gary
Oh,
Ringrose
no.
didn't actually play in any tests, Leo. Like, but anyway, so if we proceed under the assumption that a Lions hangover is a thing, and if we are saying that this greatest rivalry tour is like a Lions tour, so is there going to be a greatest rivalry hangover? I don't know. I've only just thought of that now, so
Potentially.
I'm not sure because the players insist that a Lions hangover is real, but is the fact that it's going to be a World Cup year, does that mean that the mental drop off doesn't happen, or what? I don't know.
I think the scheduling of this is so bad, right? Because what you've got, and particularly now that we've got more and more of global season, you've got South African players in particular. Obviously, I don't think New Zealand will necessarily be influenced so much. South Africa, you've got players playing in the URC, you've got players playing in France, who massively long seasons. We've now got this tournament in the middle where the summer tests would ordinarily have been, but they've also played the summer tests. You're then leading into a World Cup year. There's no break for these players. They'll literally play 2 years of rugby consecutively. There's no way that doesn't influence the situation. So I think you might get to World Cup, as you rightly say, mate. You might get to the World Cup and South Africa are on their knees from a fitness perspective because they've literally played 2 years consecutively. It's going to be so difficult for them.
Huw, what's another rivalry that you'd like to see as the so-called greatest? What rivalry would you like to see highlighted? I'd love to see a Wales versus Fiji competition, like that kind of tour. I don't know why the USA and the Canada women haven't already done this. It seems pretty obvious.
Yeah, Fiji, Wales versus Fiji is not what sprung to mind when you asked.
Not what's sprung to mind. No.
No?
The one that springs to mind, probably the only one, if we talk about just individual nations that could do anything like this, would be France versus England. And I think that you would see commercially if England toured France, the streets would be bathed in money. Like that would sell out. No, any stadium in France would sell out. If Toulon was playing England at the Stade Velodrome in Marseille, printing money, people would go to it. So I think that's probably the only realistic one you can compare it to. Maybe the women's game is a more interesting way of looking at it. Other rivalries, just like I don't know, does it have to be? Because the interesting thing about the New Zealand South Africa rivalry is that is purely a rugby rivalry. These nations have apart from both obviously being former British colonies, have very little in common, in terms of like, they've never been at war,
They have cricket, I understand.
Okay, they've got cricket. Okay. So yeah, that probably England versus France is probably the only one that kind of springs to mind. I mean, I suppose you could do a South Africa tour of I don't know. Now that I've said this out loud, I think it would be an awful idea, but a South Africa tour of Ireland, that would suck. But
They
you
would
could
sell.
do
They
that.
would sell a lot of tickets, right?
Well, there's only 4 teams in Ireland, so there's only 4 teams in South Africa. They're playing those against as well, I
I
suppose.
know, but the rivalry seems intense, and
I think
ever since South Africa co-opted Zombie, it's felt
New
personal.
Zealand and South Africa could tour anybody. I think that England could tour France, France could tour England, and that would sell. Probably more so England to France than France to England, just because rugby's bigger in France. I don't know. I'd kind of like to see if the Pumas toured the other South American nations, like the proper Pumas, then that would shift a few tickets. That's pretty much all I could. I mean, New Zealand touring the Pacific Islands would be pretty cool as well.
Very.
Not going to be money shifting, is it though?
That isn't. Especially because Tonga can't actually host test matches in Tonga because they don't have the infrastructure. So
I think I've stumbled upon the answer to the question as you were talking there, and it's basically anyone but England. anyone against England. I think England, we were talking about the greatest, so again, we've had a debate outside of this about the greatest rivalry, and that statement in itself, I think, is nonsense, right? As you rightly point out, there's no war, there's no nothing, there's 1995, right? And not much else. Generally, aside from the World Cup recently, there's both teams they shift in ascendancy. So actually, they don't rival each other that often. South Africa are rubbish when New Zealand are great, vice versa, right? Greatest rivalries are based on so much more than that. And I would go England, Wales, England, Scotland, England, Ireland straight away. It's three more robust rivalries. Yes, there's less, maybe less 1 and 2 in the world, and maybe at the moment there's some disparity in those rivalries at times. But you look at the Calcutta Cup matches across, even when Scotland were bloody awful, Calcutta Cup matches meant everything. And still, to a certain extent, we still joke in Scotland that, yeah, well, as long as we beat England, we'll have a good Six Nations. Everything else is by the by. So that's not that's a rivalry. And the fact that England are so into that now as well, because they are, I think, because they're a bit rubbish, actually, they're starting to feed into the fact that we pump them every year. There's a proper great rivalry there, and it is the oldest international fixture. So
I think any Celtic nation touring England, I think, would work, just because there are so many Celtic people living in England, or people of that heritage. So you could get 10,000 Scots to turn up to any of the club sides easily.
Honestly, you could do that tour in America and have a bunch of Scottish and Irish teams play each other in Chicago and Boston and places like that, and Americans would flock.
The URC has explored doing that in the past.
We've talked about America,
like that, but everybody always says that's a great idea. Not us, though.
Well, I mentioned earlier we'll be doing a URC preview next week, but I wanted to at least touch on it before I let you both go. John, what's your level of excitement? Heading into the new URC season. The end of last year was frustrating. Obviously, I seem to recall, but have you bounced back?
Yeah, I mean, the end of last season was frustrating, and I mean, it's not that I'm not excited. I'm really excited to see Glasgow coming back through. And the problem I've got is I'm excited because we've got a lot of academy players graduating and coming into the full fold, which in itself is probably a problem. We might find that we struggle a wee bit.
This is the new Sephora effect.
Yes, it is. And he can get in the sea, frankly, because, either you get signed and you have a Queensland's Reds contract of some variety in your past, or you have to be Scottish. Project Scotland, let's go. It's a terrible, terrible situation we find ourselves in. Glasgow are going into this season with 110 in Dan Lancaster, which is suboptimal, to say the least.
I had not realized that, and by the way, I've come around on him a little bit. I think he's pretty good, but he can't be your number one, right?
No. So we have Dan Lancaster as our only senior professional 10. We may have some support from the academy. And the Australian guy, who's apparently his first name is Kunzel, which does make me laugh, he does seem to be able to play in classic Australian style. Australian backs seem to be able to play every position in the back line. So he has...
Curtly Beale, James O'Connor.
Exactly, right? Same, right? We picked a guy whose name's Kunzel. So same, right? I think he does seem to be able to play 10, but there's no chance he's going to be playing 10. So our backline at the moment is looking like George Horn, Dan Lancaster, Tuipulotu, Stafford McDowell, Jamie Dobby in the wing, Kyle Steyn in the wing, and then Josh Mackay. If any of them get injured, we have no one else except Kyle Rowe.
Right.
So I am concerned. But the news coming out from camp at Glasgow is that this is a plan. We know we cannot be giving out big contracts to your Scotland internationals. We know we can't afford that. Franco Smith doesn't want this. So there's an element of all these guys coming through the academy now have been through strength and conditioning for the last 3 years that has them ready for rugby. And they're ready to step up. I will believe that when I see it, but I am very, very concerned about what we're doing at Glasgow at the moment. I hope I'm wrong.
Huw, what about you? What's your excitement level? It's my impression the Scarlets have had a pretty good offseason. Of course, they've been showing flashes as well. Are you feeling the old optimism rising?
No. It's very, very hard to feel any kind of positive in Welsh rugby at the moment. The cloud that not only over but envelops everything really robs any chance of being excited. I mean, yes, theoretically the Scarlets have had a good off season in terms of recruitments. Kinda, we signed a lot of people that none of us had ever heard of, but having said that, we have signed a lot of people who none of us have ever heard of before, and it worked out quite well. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. We're looking for a change because what the Scarlets under Dwayne Peel have been characterised by appalling starts to the season ever since we've had Dwayne Peel in charge. So we need to do something in the first 5 games. We need to get a win in the first 5 games. It would be novel, but if we could do that, that would be great. And then kind of take it from there. So from a Welsh point of view, you're kind of going, not much to be excited about. I'm intrigued by what the South African franchises do next. Maybe less so the Lions, because you always know what the Lions are going to be like, but what the Sharks are going to do with a fresh-faced squad, what the Bulls are going to do with Acker's season 2, whether the Stormers have signed Khaleesi and Cheslin Colby. That's a reason to tune in, if nothing else, and then see if Dobbo is able to add a coherent attack to this game plan.
The cynic in me says that's a great reason to tune in 5 years ago.
No, they're still both really good. They're still both really, really good. Glasgow is probably the one where you're kind of like, oh, the recruitment's been a little bit. Kind of the way that you phrased it in the chat for the agenda was who won the off season, not Glasgow. Ulster have also have lost a lot of players. A lot of players left Ulster. People don't necessarily realise what the turnover has been.
That's a good call.
We're yet to get the Leinster blockbuster signing, which is
I
interesting to me.
literally have it in my notes here. What All Black aging player who used to play winger and is now a center are Leinster signing? Because I haven't seen it yet.
They got it. Surely Bowden Barrett is written all out. You've got Leinster written all.
It does have Bodie written all over it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, he has done these tips for his hair. By the way, can we just comment on that?
That was for a separate charity. That was for a separate thing.
Yeah, but come on, he should know
better.
John, Ulster, the Sharks, Ospreys, and Edinburgh all missed out in the playoffs last season in the URC. Do you see any of those seasons, those teams stepping up?
I mean, this is the thing. All of those teams have the potential because of the convoluted way the URC does its fixtures. Those all have potential to reach 7th and 8th in the league.
Except Edinburgh.
Well, Edinburgh have signed. No, okay, no, I can't do it. No, they've not. There's a couple of players with potential, but the main signing they made is now injured for 6 months. So, classic Scottish rugby signing that, by the way.
Huw, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say maybe that will come good, but it's that way that it just seems very Edinburgh in their signings, and actually there's been so much of the social media stuff that Edinburgh has just made me laugh. They're a they're a bottom of the league club masquerading as important, and it just is terrific.
In Hugh, the bubble teams that made it in last year were Connacht, the Lions, Cardiff, and Munster. Do you see any of those teams falling out this next year?
Cardiff could easily fall out. Cardiff have had a so-so recruitment. They have signed some players. They've retained a lot of players. You could go off to a whole tangent here about the fact that they are now WRU owned. The problematic nature of them then dishing out loads of contracts. The Connacht is interesting because it's going to be Stuart Lancaster season 2. And will he be able to progress that team? Obviously, they've got Kieran Frawley coming in at 10. Will he be able to progress that team, take them to a next step, or has he already hit the ceiling? That's the question that's is over Connacht. So probably I would say Ulster are probably at risk of. Oh no, Ulster didn't make it anyway. In my head, Ulster got top 8 last season, but they didn't.
Didn't make it.
They were because they were like second for ages, and they didn't even get top 8.
They started well.
So Lions probably the one you wouldn't expect to get it. Guys, not only are Lions in the Champions Cup this season, Toulouse are going away to Johannesburg in the Champions Cup.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Oh, it's funny.
Toulouse like to go away and lose to teams anyway, so it's fine. They'll
just
find.
I mean,
2,000
Johannesburgers must be like, thank God they come here.
You asked the question, David, right at the start. Who won the recruitment?
Yeah.
Who won the off season?
Who won the off season?
There was part of me going, no one. No one actually won the off season because, for the most part, it's all been a bit crap. But the team that you're wearing just now, the Stormers, are the team that jump out at me because you've got 2 huge Springbok signings coming back to the Stormers in Khaleesi and Cheslin. Cheslin Colby will tear the URC a new one. He has got everything to cause carnage this year.
He's Darcy Graham plus.
Yeah, I think he'll basically everyone who has been getting overly excited about. I mean, Darcy Graham's a very talented rugby player. If he was playing at a good side, he would be even better, right? But can you imagine giving Darcy Graham and then adding on a kicking game, defensive awareness, and the ability, and actually a wee bit more strength and speed? Bloody
charge down. Don't forget the charge down.
Yeah, we're all in for that. So I think Colby's going to be a massive part of the Stormer season, obviously. But that's the thing with these wide players. Rugby's such a fascinating sport in that sense. Like, you can have a superstar winger, but if you don't have a mechanism to get them on the ball and get them in the ball in space, then they're completely pointless. And that's where
the former Jacksonville Jaguar, Lewis Rees-Zammit.
Exactly. And you look at Darcy Graham and that Edinburgh side, and you just hope that they've come up with a way to get him on the ball without just getting absolutely moored. And I don't think they have, but we shall see. It'll be very exciting.
The Scarlets lost to Edinburgh this season, and still my biggest takeaway from when I finished watching that game, I came away thinking, God, Edinburgh are terrible. like I was watching them just like, I understand. Like, I would say that Edinburgh fans are the most emotionally mature fans of any sports team in the world, because you see them posting on Blue Sky. You see them posting something like, "Yeah, we're winning, but this doesn't mean it's good." And you watch it, And because if you don't watch Edinburgh, you just look at the results, you're like, what are you complaining about? And then you watch them and you're like, oh my God, how could anybody pay money to turn up and look at this? Like,
It's
incredible.
Did you happen to see during the off season the Grant Gilchrist like buy season tickets or I'll be executed video? It was kind of like a hostage video. It was really bad, and I don't know who's in charge of Edinburgh's content at the moment, but they're kind of quirky.
Clearly, nobody.
Yeah. It might be
Just
Grant Gilchrist actually.
on the Glasgow off season, you've signed Jamie Ritchie. What are you worried about?
Yeah. What are we moaning about? Yeah, we've lost Jack Dempsey and brought in Jamie Ritchie. Like, excuse me, I'm okay with Ritchie. I dig that boy, but I've lost the love of my life, mate. So I've actually lost both the loves of my life, and that Huw Jones and Jack Dempsey have left Glasgow at the same time. It's a wonder I can even speak in this podcast. I'm so desperate.
The loss of Jack Dempsey is profoundly affecting me.
That
However,
man is the best backwards cap wearing person since Fred Durst, and I will stand by that statement.
by a long shot. We're way past the time I expected you guys to give me this time. I really appreciate it. I decided to spring a quick one-question quiz on both of you. Cast your minds back, if you will, over the last 4 URC seasons. I want to know how many games your teams, Glasgow for John and Scarlets for Huw, have won over the last 4 seasons combined. So that includes regular season games and the playoffs. Total victories for your teams over the last 4 years. Closest one wins. Who's going first?
I mean,
I've got the total here.
I'll go first. So we won 4 games last season. We won
Correct.
9 or 10 games the season before that. We won 5 games the season before that.
Oh, damn.
And I can't remember the season before that at all. Where did we
22-23. It was a weird season.
I think that was the season that we got to the semi-final of the Challenge Cup, and then we played against a certain team, and there was a deliberate knock-on, and the referee said, "Don't worry about it," and we lost at home.
Was that Team Glasgow? Because if it was, I'm not taking that. Oh, you.
So what's your total? You said 4.
I don't know about the season before the season before the season before last. So I'm on.
Scarlets have made the playoffs once in that 4-year period and didn't win that game. So it's all about the regular season victories.
So I'm on 18.
You were right that this year 4.
So I'm on 24.
Not bad, by the way.
I think John's gonna be a little harder. The last 4 years, John, you've been nailing that 13 regular season win, goal over and over. What do you think over the last 4 seasons? How many games have Glasgow won, including playoff games? So, I'm just going to tell you now, Huw just nailed it. It's 24.
Yeah, I mean, I can't win this. So I done some quick addition in my head to try and figure this out. And I have landed on, so there's no science to this whatsoever. I don't know how many games, because we win too many games, right? So I can't count them all. I'm going to say in the last 4 seasons, we have won 45 games.
You're below it by 10.
Really?
Glasgow have won 55 games.
Wow.
This year, 13 wins in the regular season and a playoff win. Before that, 11 wins and a playoff win. Then 13 wins and all the way to the final.
Yep.
Then 13 wins and KO'd by Munster. That 5-14 game, that was rough. Scarlets, 4 this past year, 9 the year before, 5 and then 6. Yeah, Huw absolutely nailed it, which means I'll be sending you some Scrum of the Earth stickers, I guess. because I have no other
I
prizes.
have some already. I have one on my.
Can you imagine for the next 4 years winning 55 games? You can that would be ludicrously good,
I
right?
pine for the days where we used to have a so-so regular season and then we'd rock up to Glasgow in the semi-finals and roll you over like it was nothing.
Oh, it was so bad, wasn't it? It was great times. Great times.
55-24. That's rough. Glasgow have been better than I thought. I guess 55 wins in 4 seasons. That's crazy. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean we've been consistently that's the thing. We've been consistently up there. This is why I get like a bee in my bonnet about like when people talk about like Benetton, for example. Great team. But it's that aspect of if Glasgow are a playoff team, if they're a team that want to win this contest, especially at home, Benetton are a team that Glasgow should be putting away, and it's that way when you look at the fixtures that come out and you know the teams you need to be putting away to be a top 4 team. So it's not disrespect to those sides. It's just that's where we're at. So David's getting summoned. He's getting kicked off the podcast.
I've got a visitor.
Hi, Pete!
Huw, I'm sure you're lovely too.
I'm sure you are as well.
I wanted to say hi to John. I was telling Dave I miss John. I was like, I miss
Hey,
him.
pal. Great to see you. We should get a group call going soon, and we can have a proper chat. We'll get a group call
He's in
going.
your ears. I can't hear him.
Yeah,
I
we'll
was
get a new
thinking.
call for all
We'll
of
get a
us.
call going.
Yay!
Yeah. I told her to come on down and say hi.
You can edit that out if you need to.
My friends, this has been an absolute blast as always. Final thing before I let you go, what are you most looking forward to over the next year or so? It could be a tournament, it could be a competition, it could be a matchup, it could be the 1872 Cup. What do you got? John, what are you looking forward to over the next year or so of rugby?
Another year of rugby. I am really looking forward to the inevitable explosion of youth talent at Glasgow that is going to result in another playoff defeat from Leinster. And it's going to be really, really, really upsetting for me. Actually, no, I'm being really flippant there. What I'm really looking forward to is seeing Matt Fagerson back at number 8. Back in his preferred position. I think this is going to be breakout version 2 of Matt Fagerson.
Oh, so this is like the good side of the Jack Dempsey.
Yeah. Richie will go to 6 and Fagerson will be back
abdication.
Yeah.
Okay. Huw, what about you? What are you looking forward to in the next rugby year?
I'm looking forward to the breakthrough laser surgery that removes the part of my brain that ever knew that Wales existed. I'm very I am looking forward to some games that are happening here in the autumn in the UK. So the Springbok women are coming to Cardiff to play against Wales. I hope to get to that game and see that one. I believe that some Nations Cup fixtures are being held in the UK. And if so, I shall try to get to as many of those as possible. And I shall look forward to that greatly. So that's what I am most looking forward to.
Guys, thank you again for your humor and insight. And I even spelled humor in my little notes with that extra U, just in both of your honor. Final thoughts at all?
So you pre-committed to us being humorous before the show had been recorded?
Of course I did. Why would I not?
My top, I done a personality test for work the other day because that's what they make you do. And my top 3 skills.
And it came back negative.
Well, yeah, apparently so. Yeah. It came back that I should be an Edinburgh fan, and that made me sad. My top skills were love and humour, and that's what I think I enjoy most about this podcast. It is love and it is humour. So it's great to be here again.
That's exactly why I do this. Oh, that's so perfect. Love and humor is why we're here. my friends, this has been so fantastic. Thank you for helping me kick off the 6th year. It seems bizarre to me, but I'm just really excited. I've got some amazing people lined up, despite your amazing selves. And thank you so much for your time. It's been so much fun. This is just an amazing journey for me, and I love it so much.
Right back at you, David.
Cheers. Talk to you soon, and be well.